Welcome to Cogito. In this tutorial, we'll show you how to configure Cogito in local mode. That's when you're not connected to the Cogito service. When you launch Cogito for the first time, it'll tell you you're not configured yet. You have to go to the little gear at the bottom left. Let's start by entering our school calendar. This is where we set up the first day of school and the last day of school. Typically, you'll want to include any PED days at the beginning or the end of the year just to make things complete, and in case it affects your rotating schedule if you have one. Talking about rotating schedule, our example uses a 9-day cycle. This means days are numbered from 1 to 9 and then cycle over back to 1. Now, your school may not use this kind of a rotating schedule. In such a case, you'll just use a 5-day cycle. How many periods do we have per day is what we'll enter in this section here. We'll use 5 for today. And if you're on a rotating cycle, which is the day of that first day of the year? We then move on to the daily schedule. This is where we determine what are the times of each of the periods of the day. So our sample here has period 1 starting at 9 a.m. and finishing at 10:20. So you enter the time of the start and the end of each period of the day. Now, if you'd rather not number them, you could use any other symbol or letter you would like. Now, Cogito does handle a built-in lunch period, so you don't actually have to create a period for lunch. Just leave it on and it'll take care of lunch for you, and you can just enter the start time and end time of lunch. And you can even set it up so that it uses a letter next to that period to just so you know it's lunch, right? Now, your school might have different types of schedules depending on which day it is, or perhaps on Fridays. Some schools do that, and then you'll want to explore the alternate schedule, but we'll create another tutorial just on that. Let's move on to the list of courses. This is where you enter each of the courses you're attending. Let's start with the entry of our math course. So you enter the title, the teacher's name. So let's say I'm giving you your math course, and the teacher's email. Okay, you can enter the group ID for each of the courses you're attending if you so like. So maybe I'm in group 11. Maybe you're in the same group for every one of your courses, but maybe it changes depending if you have optionals. And you can enter the room number. So let's say this is in 233. Now, there's a color that's set right here. You can change it by touching it and changing it to another color. Or you can change it after you've entered the course through the little color disc, I guess, on the side right here. Now, so you can opt to have a very colorful agenda or maybe a more subdued color tone, depending on what your preference is. So we'll continue like this and add a few more courses to fill up our course list. Okay, so we've entered all of our courses, and now I can move on and build my master schedule. The master schedule is where I define which course happens on which day of my cycle. Again, if it's a 5-day cycle, well, it's basically from Monday to Friday, and you just enter your schedule that way. But in this case here, we have a 9-day schedule. So I'll just go in and select each of these periods and choose the appropriate course that happens on every day 1, for example, in this case. And you just go on like that and choose all the courses that you have on the schedule you receive from your school. So let's enter all of those, and now that we're ready, we'll go in and add what we call special days. Special days are basically all the PED days or holidays that you might have during the year, but it can also be things like special events. So, relaxed dress code day or any kind of school event that you might have. So let's start by adding a PED day on the first day of school. So I'll just say ped day on August 28th. You'll notice one thing that's really important. Notice how it shows you the date, and then on the top it'll show you which cycle day was supposed to be here, and then it gets moved over to the next day. This is what we call the effect on the cycle day. So by default, a ped day will basically move your cycle day from your rotating schedule to the next day. Maybe that's not the case, so you have to look at your master schedule that you receive from your teacher and see how days are affected by these days, because you have different choices. I mean, for example, it could be, well, you basically skip that cycle day completely. So instead of being 4, it becomes nothing, and then the next day continues as it's supposed to. Shifting is the typical way things happen, but your school might be different. So I'll just enter this first one here as a ped day, and then I'll continue on and I'll say, okay, well, now let me add Labor Day. So here in Canada, we have Labor Day. It's in September. It's on September 1st. And it's not a ped day. It's actually a civic holiday. So notice that I can go in and choose the kind of special day I want to use. So there are these holidays and ped days, and then there's events like special events or exams, and then things like term delimiters, the start or end of a term, if you want to add that to your schedule. So in this case, it's a civic holiday. Notice the symbol is different, and I can still play with the effect on the cycle day. I'll just leave it as shift, as it's fairly typical to do so. And you continue on. Let's say we want to add a relaxed dress code. Well, maybe this would not be a civic holiday, obviously. It's a special event. It'll just show up this way, but it doesn't affect our cycle day. It's actually a regular school day. So I can go into the effect and say, keep the cycle day. I'm not doing anything special here. And then it'll just keep it, and school happens, and I'll see all my courses on that day as normal. So there you go. You can also affect a specific cycle day if you want. So you can say this is actually a day 5, and then what happens to the next day? Is it swapped, or is it shifted, or is it skipped? All of these options are possible. I'll just leave it as it was. So you can see Cogito is very flexible in adapting to your school schedule, but you have to go in and enter all of these days. So it takes a little bit of time. So let's continue entering all those days. So now that we've entered all of our courses and built our schedule and entered all the special days during the year, we want to keep this information safe. Cogito makes backups of your data automatically every 5 hours or so, basically directly inside of itself. So it'll back up, and you can see here that it's backed up my data at 2:41 today. I can force it to make a backup now, but I don't need to do that. It'll just do it. See, it shows you it just did a backup. Now I can restore from a backup if I lost information for some reason. I deleted something and I didn't want to. I can go back to one of my original backups, and you can see it takes backups during the day, but also it keeps backups from the previous day and every day for the last week, and then one backup before that. You can also set it up to use outside services like Dropbox or Google Drive if you have accounts on those services. It's really a good idea, because if your iPad gets stolen or lost or breaks, you'll want to recover your data from one of these services. Now, it will be stored in your iTunes backup, so if you restore from iTunes, you should have all your data right there. But just in case, using Dropbox or Google Drive is a great extra way to keep all your data safe, and it will back up to all 3 services automatically for you every time it makes a backup, so you can feel safe. Now, also, after spending all this time creating your schedule and you're entering your special days, especially those are a little bit long, you might want to share this with a friend that's in your school. Now, if you want to do that, there's 2 ways you can do that. Maybe your school has set up a server that you can tie to. Well, they'll have to talk to us for that. Or you can just use the in-app purchase and use the built-in sharing option. Now, this doesn't give you all the bells and whistles, but it allows you to send your configuration file to a friend. They have to buy that option as well, but once you both have it, you can import the settings, and your friend won't have to enter all of these days. So that's really fun. There's another option to display the Cogito information directly in your calendars and reminders. You can turn that on, and it will share to either iCloud or Google Drive or an Exchange server all of your calendar and all of your tasks, so that if you look at your calendar app on your iPad or your reminders app, you will see all that information, and it can get shared over the internet so that perhaps your parents can look at it. So that's our quick overview of the configuration. Let's now go and take a look at what the schedule looks like now that we've configured it. We'll use the back to agenda button at the bottom. So just tap on that, and your schedule will be built automatically for you, showing you today automatically. So here's a schedule. You can see all the periods of the day. Obviously, between you and I don't have any school on July 29th. This is just an example. So I can look at the coming week, the coming month. I can scroll this and see all the special days that are set up for me automatically. And I can look at the whole year as well, so that I can get a good idea of when my holidays are and when spring break is coming and my exam days. Everything appears right there. So that's the first part of using Cogito in standalone mode. In our other tutorials, you'll learn how to use tasks and manage your time. Thanks for listening.